Imagine a cave dug deep into the earth where no sunlight has ever reached. Inside this cave, human beings have been imprisoned since they were children. Their legs and necks are fastened in heavy iron chains. They cannot turn their heads or move their bodies in any direction. All they can do is stare at the blank stone wall directly in front of them. They have never seen another human face in their entire lives. Behind the prisoners, a great fire burns constantly on a raised platform. Between the fire and the prisoners runs a low wall like a puppet stage. Behind that wall, other people walk back and forth, carrying objects above their heads. They carry carved statues of men and animals and trees and tools. The fire casts the shadows of these objects onto the wall the prisoners face. The prisoners see the shadows move and flicker across the stone surface. For them, the shadows are not shadows at all. The shadows are the only reality they have ever known. When a shadow of a horse moves across the wall, that is what a horse is. When a shadow of a man speaks, the prisoners believe the shadow itself is speaking. The echoes of voices bounce off the stone, and the prisoners think the shadows talk. Every conversation the prisoners have ever had has been about the shadows. They name the shadows and predict which shadow will appear next. They give prizes to whoever is best at recognizing the patterns on the wall. The wisest prisoner is the one who has memorized the most shadow sequences. None of them suspects that what they are watching is not real. But this is not where the story ends. Now imagine that one prisoner is suddenly set free from his chains. He is forced to stand up and turn his head for the first time. The movement sends blinding pain through every muscle in his neck and back. He looks toward the fire, but the light is agony to eyes that have known only darkness. He cannot make out the objects passing behind the wall. He sees only a chaos of unbearable brightness and confusing shapes. If someone told him that what he saw before was an illusion, he would not believe it. The shadows on the wall are still more real to him than anything else. He would beg to be returned to his chains and his familiar wall of shadows. But now he is dragged by force up the steep and rugged passage toward the surface. The passage is rough, and every step is torture for limbs that have never walked. As he approaches the mouth of the cave, the light grows stronger and more painful. He emerges into the sun, and the brightness is so intense he cannot open his eyes. He crouches on the ground, shielding his face. Utterly overwhelmed, his eyes adjust slowly, painfully, over hours and days. First, he can look at shadows cast by the sun, which are familiar to him. Then he can see reflections of objects in still water. Then he can look at the objects themselves, real trees and stones, and living creatures. Then he can look up at the stars and the moon in the night sky. Finally, he can look at the sun itself. He understands that it is the source of all light. He realizes that the sun makes everything visible and gives life to everything that grows. In that moment, he understands that his entire existence in the cave was a prison of ignorance. He feels an overwhelming pity for the prisoners he left behind in the darkness. He remembers the prizes they gave each other for recognizing shadows, and his heart breaks. The honors of the dark cave are worth nothing, not compared to a single glimpse of the real world. He decides to go back down into the cave to free the others. But when he returns to the darkness, his eyes can no longer see the shadows. He stumbles and gropes, blind once again in a different way. The other prisoners sees his clumsiness and conclude that the journey destroyed his eyes. They decide that leaving the cave is dangerous and must be avoided at all costs. If anyone ever tries to drag them out, they will kill that person with their bare hands. Plato tells us this is the condition of almost every human being who has ever lived. We are born into a cave of received opinions and inherited beliefs. We mistake the shadows on our screens and in our traditions for the truth itself. The flickering images we trust are cast by fires we never stop to question. The chains that hold us are invisible, but they are no less real than iron. The escaped prisoner tries to tell the others what he has seen. They laugh at him or they destroy him. The allegory is 24 centuries old, carved into a different language by a different world. But every generation must decide whether it will stay in the cave or climb toward the light. The passage is steep, and the sun will hurt your eyes. But the alternative is a lifetime spent staring at shadows on a wall.